straight. Very good. Yeah, great. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, Northamptonshire. And good evening, Middle England. Because that's exactly what you are. You are Middle England. You have your towns, you have your rural areas. You are very representative of this country as a whole. You voted Brexit in 2016. And you switched to Labour in 2024. Yeah, but you did. I can't tell you how great it is to be back in this particular hall. And I'll tell you why. It was in this very room in 2016, where the first big public event of the Brexit referendum campaign began. And we had people from the Labour Party, Conservative Party, Brexit Party, Democratic Unionist Party, and others. And literally, this is the room in which the Brexit campaign began. And despite the trade union movement, and despite big business, and despite the leadership of the Labour, Liberal Democrat and Conservative parties, and dare I say, despite the BBC, we won the referendum, we left the European Union, we got back the independence of our country. And I'm back here today on what is for me a very, very proud day. I said in the early hours of the 5th of July in Clacton, having, with 4 weeks and 3 days, managed to get 4.2 million votes, managed to get 5 members of Parliament elected, and I said on that day that our objective was to prepare ourselves for the next hurdle. And the next hurdle were the council elections on the 1st of May 2025. I said I would professionalise the party. And it's a proud day because at 4 o'clock this afternoon, the nominations closed for the county council elections in England, well, at least those that weren't cancelled by the collusion of the Labour and Conservative parties. Nominations closed for the council elections on county level, on unitary level, as in here in Northants, for 6 mayoral contests, and of course, for the really big, we got a screamer out there somewhere, and for the big by-election taking place in Runcorn and Helsby. And I can tell you now, standing here in your county, which was divided into 2 for some reason, north and west, there are 144 council seats up for grabs on the 1st of May here in your home county. A gross in old money. And I can stand tonight and proudly say that Reform UK will be on the ballot paper in Northamptonshire in all 144 seats. In fact, I can tell you that we are standing right across the country in 1,638 seats. That is 99.8% seats available. We have in 9 months moved this party on in a way, not just in the opinion polls, but in terms of structure, organisation, belief. Some of the people you've seen here tonight already, and many of you, I tell you what, something really big is happening in British politics, and you are all a part of it, and I thank you. Now, these elections on May the 1st here in Northamptonshire are, of course, local elections. And you as a county have been a guinea pig for what Angela Rayner intends to do to the whole country. They intend to abolish district councils, replace them with several unitaries per county, and put a mayor over the top. Nobody's ever been asked. Nobody's ever been consulted. That is what they've decided. But you were a guinea pig, because in 2021, the identity of your county with its own council was broken up, as it was decided they should abolish all 7 district councils and give you Northamptonshire North and Northamptonshire West. They say it's about devolving power down to where the voter is. But think about it. If your district council doesn't have responsibilities for your life, but it's put up to a unitary authority, you could argue that actually many powers were taken away from you. But the arguments were made, it would be cheaper, more efficient, better run, and benefit the voters and council taxpayers of the county of Northamptonshire. So it's fair and reasonable that just 4 years on, we have an audit to see how well they're serving you. I've got 1 or 2 numbers for you. West Northamptonshire Council, well, I tell you what, it's good for some, because there are 29 employees earning in excess of £100,000 a year. Now, that wouldn't matter, would it, if they were doing a good job? But are they doing a good job? Well, let me tell you, council tax has risen by 25% over the course of the last 5 years. And one of the arguments given for getting rid of your old county council was that they'd run the budget better. Let's have a look at the numbers. And we see that West Northamptonshire Council is in debt to the tune of £587 million, with debt interest payments alone of £65,000 a day. Just as a council taxpayer living in West Northamptonshire, just think about that. The interest alone on the debt they've accumulated is £65,000 a day. But maybe it's better in North. Maybe the North is better, I don't know. Should we find out? Again, council tax has risen by 25% in 5 years. There are only 8 employees on £100,000 a year plus, and the debt there is £432 million, and the interest daily payment is £49,700. The idea that breaking this relatively small county into 2, and by the way, I don't believe we should break up our traditional English counties. They deserve their own solid identity, and I believe that very, very strongly. The effect of giving you 2 unitaries is they are deeper in debt with bigger interest payments than they ever were before. This is not working. Local government in Northamptonshire is broken, and only reform can and will fix it. But if that wasn't bad enough, there's now a plan approved by both councils. Again, Angela Rayner pushing this agenda. The plan is there'll now be a mayor over all of you. Has anybody been asked? Anybody been consulted whether you think a mayor's a good idea? Well, this mayor will not just be for the county of Northamptonshire. This mayor will also be the mayor of Bedford, of Luton, and Milton Keynes. Folks, the whole thing is a complete and utter dog's dinner. It doesn't work at any level. It doesn't work at any level. It is a complete nonsense. And if Northamptonshire is the future of local government, frankly, I'd rather go back to county councils of the past, maintain county identity, get rid of the idea of a mayor that would represent more than one county, and let's get back to common sense. And I promise you that our elected representatives, when they get into this council, and believe me, we are going to win a lot of seats on May the 1st. We will argue for the county identity to come back as it ought to be. We will argue that a mayor, if a mayor has to come, should come for a county and not include Luton, Bedford and Milton Keynes, with whom this county, frankly, has nothing in common whatsoever. And we'll argue there needs to be an independent financial audit of how council tax money is being spent. How can it be that in your county you have 40% more potholes? Is this familiar with some of the audience? 40% more potholes than the national average. Who are they signing up long-term contracts with? Who is benefiting? And this is one of the reasons why I rode in to our big conference in Birmingham last Friday on a JCB pothole mending machine, which can do it at half the cost and half the time. Isn't that what you should be demanding as council taxpayers in this area? I think it is. So there's much to do, but we cannot pretend that on May the 1st, everybody that goes out to vote will vote purely on local council issues. National politics will have a say in whether you turn out and how you vote. And national politics has an impact on the lives of every one of you. And I cannot think of one area that has more profoundly changed the way we live and our quality of life than the population explosion started by New Labour and then accelerated under 14 years of Conservative rule. A population increase of over 10 million people in the course of 20 years. You wonder why you can't get a GP appointment? Let me tell you that in the last 10 years alone, 7.2 million people born outside our country have registered with GPs. Just think about that. 7.2 million people more on GP registers is one of the major reasons why you simply can't get a GP contract. Think of house building going on in your county. Your population in this county rose from 2011 to 2021 by 14%. And nearly all of that directly a result of opening up the doors to the whole of the world and asking no questions. And by the way, we're in favour of people that come to Britain, work hard, obey the law, pay their taxes, and integrate with our communities. We've no problem with that. We never have had. We're a very, very open-minded people. But when you think of the last 3 million that came in to Britain to settle under the Conservatives from the greater world outside of Europe, of the last 3 million, only 22% are working. And guess what? You're paying for all the rest. It is making our roads busier. It is making house building happen on a level that is wholly unsustainable. It is making access to public services such as health, frankly, virtually unrecognizable, albeit in some cases almost impossible. And this has been done by a Labour Party and a Conservative Party, and it's up to the local council to pick up the pieces. And I think on this, people will vote on May the 1st. And I want to say this to you. Blair was open about it 25 years ago. He said, we'll open up the doors, and he did. But the numbers that have come under the Conservatives, who promised us in 2010 in their manifesto they'd reduce numbers to tens of thousands a year. They told us again in 2015, 2017, 2019, promise after promise after promise after promise. They'd reduce the numbers to sustainable levels. In 2023 alone, net 1 million more people came into our country. And I want to suggest to you, as you vote in these elections, where the Conservative Party have massive majorities in both West and Northamptonshire councils, I want to suggest to you that that betrayal of their promises is of such a scale that they should never, ever be forgiven for it. And that we should replace them. We need to replace the Conservative Party as the voice of opposition, as the voice of Middle England against the Labour Party in government that I don't think is doing very well. Oh, Starmer, he looks so blooming miserable, doesn't he? I mean, Rachel from accounts almost got rigor mortis. I mean, whatever you think of Angela Rayner, at least she's fun, I suppose. But I mean, my God, they've got everything wrong, haven't they? And think of the impact. Yesterday, April the 1st, April Fool's Day. Anybody see me get my tattoo on the arm? It's not real, it's a henna tattoo. I couldn't scrub it off this morning, but it will go. But every single person here who works in retail, who works in hospitality, for them, yesterday was a hammer blow. A hammer blow because for every employee they've got, their bill went up by £1,000 per person yesterday. The economy is in real trouble. The economy is literally flat-lining. Folks, we'll be frank about this, we are in, as a country, and you as a county, we are in economic decline. Serious decline. All the experts talk about is GDP, gross domestic product. So what happens if the population goes up by 1 million? Gross domestic product goes up. But what about gross domestic product per capita? What about the individual level and measure of wealth? Let me tell you, it has fallen for 6 of the last 8 quarters, and it's falling right now. A period of mass migration into Britain of people mostly who do not work is coinciding with us getting poorer. And I am the only leading politician with the guts and the courage to stand up, to face the abuse, to tell you the truth, and to ask you to vote for it on May the 1st this year. And again, there are many other impacts of national policy on local policy. Take Corby. Corby, the great steel town, which filled up with a lot of people from Scotland, of course, didn't it, famously? 10,000 jobs in steel at Corby just a couple of decades ago. Now, but a few hundred. But can that even survive? Scunthorpe, the last primary steel producing plant in our country. And both Richard Tice and I have said for years it will close. Why? Because we now have the most expensive commercial energy prices in the whole world. The more wind turbines we build, the more solar farms we build, we can con ourselves we're saving the world. What we're doing is giving everybody, including you as consumers, but I'm focusing for now, especially on business, Our energy prices for manufacturers are 5 times higher than the United States of America. We are deindustrializing, cement making gone, aluminium production totally gone, chemical production back to a very, very small core. The North Sea, overtaxed by the Conservatives and now being closed down by Red Ed Miliband. Oh, he really is awful, isn't he? I know. Don't worry, I'm in Doncaster on Monday. I'll be taking the fight to him there. We will, whatever happens with renewables, whatever breakthroughs there may or may not be, let's be clear. We will be using oil and using gas at least up until 2050. And this party argues, if we're going to use oil and gas, let's produce our own oil and gas and not import it from all around the world. And let's manufacture our own steel. Let's manufacture our own aluminium. Let's have our own refineries, our own cement makers. Let's re-industrialize Britain rather than exporting it to India and China. Let's do it. It's complete and utter madness what is going on. I feel both political parties are now completely out of touch with you here in Middle England. Most of this Labour Party are a bunch of human rights lawyers living in Islington and elsewhere with very different priorities to you. And the Conservative Party, which has historically represented this county at local and national level, now doesn't know what it is. You want to meet the MPs they've got left. I mean, half of them should be in the Lib Dems. They're arrogant, stuffy. I mean, goodness knows why they feel so pleased with themselves. But frankly, they are hopeless. After a quarter of a century campaigning for us to get back our national sovereignty, because I always believed the EU was a mistake. I always believed that the best people to govern Britain were the British people themselves through the ballot box and through Parliament, and I fought for that. And I was nearly the patron saint of lost causes, but I kind of kept on going, and of course I had 20 years in the European Parliament. An experience that I enjoyed more than they did. They weren't happy bunnies when I was there, were they? And yet I wasn't rude. I just took the mickey out of them and they couldn't take it. But I really thought on the 31st of January, 2020, being in Parliament Square, 100,000 people, and I was the one doing the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, way, we're out. And I really thought then, that's it. I'm done. I'm done with politics. I've given so much of my adult life to fighting for this massive, historic, 300-year biggest constitutional change. And I never for a moment imagined that I would come back into the political fray. Because life was pretty good. You know, great job at GB News, which I've loved. Loved it. Turned 60 last year. I'm 61 tomorrow. It doesn't get better, does it? First 2 grandkids born. And I thought, my name's in the history books. I was the man that made Brexit happen. But I've come back. And that day, it was 3rd of June last year, I'm in the car, coming into central London, and we've announced secret press conference, and no one knew what it was. And it took me a couple of hours to get in through the traffic into central London. And I thought to myself, why am I doing this? Why am I putting my head so firmly over the parapet that every enemy sniper within range will have a go at me? Why am I doing this? And I thought to myself in the car that day, I'm doing it because there are three things that I love and three things that I really, truly, honestly believe in. And I think they're the same three things that most of you will believe in. I think they're the same three things that the silent majority in this country who've not been given a voice, but boy, we in Reform UK intend to give them a voice. Those three things, all of which I believe are under attack and assault, are family, community, and country. They're the things that I love. They're the things that I will fight for, and I invite you to do the same. And that's what matters. Being led by people happy to give away our sovereignty to Brussels or the World Health Organization or, frankly, anybody else. Led by people whose idea of diversity is to literally change many of our inner cities into places where you can barely even recognize them as being England. And our response to that is easy. We welcome people who legally come to Britain, who work hard, obey the law, pay their taxes, but recognize and integrate with our way of life and don't try and impose their way of life upon us. And in terms of the family, well, we've been indoctrinating young children that marriage is bad, that kids don't need a mum and dad, and of course, not in every circumstance can that happen, and encouraging kids age 5 to say whether they're male, female, or one of, and this next sentence got me into terrible trouble the other night, so I'm going to repeat it. To tell kids age 5 whether they are male, female, or one of 69 other genders. And the whole thing is mad. And the education system, literally from primary school now, all the way through to university, we are poisoning the minds of our kids. And let me promise you something. I know that in the 144 races that will take place in this county on May the 1st, and with postal votes, of course, in some cases before that, I know we're in the race in virtually every one of them. I've no idea what will happen on May the 1st, but I know we're going to win or lose scores of seats on the basis of 100 or 150 votes. It's going to be that tight. And I'll come back in a moment to your role in all of that. But let me promise you, if we finish up in control of these councils here in Northamptonshire, we will absolutely demand and fight to make sure our kids are taught objectively about the great history of this amazing island that we're privileged to live on. No more poisoning of the minds. No more. No more. Enough. Which brings me to, I think, one of the most important parts of this evening. Last July, as I said, I wanted to build the party, to build the branches. We now have 400 branches across the country. And today, we've gone through 221,000 paid up members. Amazing. We are double the size of the Conservatives, and we're going to start catching up Labour very, very fast. But having people out there that support us, having people out there that give us their £25 a year to be a member, all of that is humbling and flattering in so many ways. And in this county, to have turned out a full slate of 144 candidates, and boy, I've met loads of them. They're keen as mustard. They're not paper candidates. They're standing and fighting to win. But what we need to do is to mobilize you, because you are our people's army. We need you all to do however little or however much you can do to help us here in this county do something totally extraordinary on May the 1st. I believe we can do something extraordinary here on May the 1st. Do you? Good. Are you prepared, all of you, in some way? Whether it's delivering leaflets in your streets, whether it's joining a candidate to knock on doors, whether it's going out to the golf club, the bingo, or whatever it is and talking to people, whether it's touring the pubs. I've done it for 30 years. Are you prepared, having come along tonight, seen the calibre of our candidates, are you all prepared in your own way to make some contribution towards success on May the 1st? Good. Well, we'll be emailing back to all of you attendees, trying to put you together with our local candidates, asking you please to do your bit. It is the collective sum of lots of little individual acts that causes momentum in politics and public opinion. And I want to come back here. In the first week of May to celebrate a great success here in the heart of England. Now I'm going to finish by asking, who in the audience here is one of our candidates on May the 1st? Stand up. Well, I tell you what, I think you should all come and join me here on the stage to end the evening, so please come up. Please come up. And ladies and gentlemen, recognize this. Whilst 4 of these are serving councillors who've come across to us, and some others have stood in elections before, the vast majority of these men and women have never, ever stood for public office before. They are putting their heads up over the parapet. Yes, I confess, we've encouraged them to do so. And now that it's too late for them to withdraw, I want to tell them the truth. That they will get some abuse on the doorstep. They will get some unpleasantness from trade unions. They will get some press criticism. But you know what they'll also get? They'll also get much love and much support from decent, ordinary people who make up the silent majority here in Middle England and elsewhere. Come on, guys, keep coming. What did Michael Caine say in the film Zulu? There's thousands of them. It is my great honour, after 30 years in public life, campaigning as I did for Brexit, to say to you tonight that what happens on May the 1st here and elsewhere is the next big significant hurdle that we have to clear. If we clear this hurdle and clear it well, and clear a couple more, we will win the next general election. And we will begin to put in place the kind of courage, leadership and reform that we need to make our once great country great again. And I couldn't do this on my own. There's a lot I can do, but I can do it now with men and women like this that have come forward in your county. I am proud to be their leader. I've met many of them today. I know they're going out there and working their socks off. And if you come forward in large numbers, those of you that said yes, and help them in the individual wards, we are going to cause an earthquake in Middle England. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them all a cheer, and thank you for this evening. Thank you.